Welcome to the latest episode of Clarity in Conversation. Today I'm joined with Tim Payne, CEO of Claris. This topic is AI in action. Everyone's hearing about AI, and if you watch the last episode of our webinar series, you'll realize that we're looking at AI slightly differently to the rest of the market, and we're trying to bring it into actionable states. The main kind of focus for this episode is to make sure that we're kind of attacking the admin function of our industry, seeing if we can get rid of as much of that bloat as possible and get back to the state where people can actually do their jobs.
So there's always been things you could automate within a system, but now you can add in a decision layer from AI, which just makes it, it's almost the same as what a person would have been doing 2 years ago. So it's really, really cool to see both technologies coming together.
You might sign a new client, and that client has a particular kind of importing process to get your data in. They might have different marketplaces you've never heard of. They might be only available to get a certain type of file out of their either upstream or downstream system. So the example we see quite a lot is PDF orders coming in. And PDF orders, in the old way of working, would be a person manually retyping that into a system. And nowadays, we're looking at a much smoother and simpler process, which means that that person isn't required to do that manual task anymore, and that time is now freed up to go and add additional value across the business.
Uh, you're almost using AI as a band-aid as well in short terms. Maybe an integration is being built, but in the meantime, the AI can kind of handle an integration.
Yeah, it's less about replacing jobs and more about replacing tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of the boring admin so that you can actually focus on making sure that the things that are really important are happening. And sometimes there are things that AI can't do. That's the bit. It's freeing up the humans' time to focus on the really important stuff rather than entering an order. If a customer has a huge contract with a big provider and they're maybe on a big SAP system and they don't want to do the interface, at least in the short term, PDFs seem to be the way we get it, which is just mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move into the session now. And just to frame the session, we've got four sections. It should be quite a quick session, and we're going to be going through some of the aspects of our AI offering in the system and how it can be practically applied to your business. I think the best thing to do is kind of give you a bit of an overview of where we are currently. So, Tim, I mean, AI has been everywhere at the minute, and especially over the last couple of years, but our industry seems to be lagging a little bit. Do you think that AI is starting to become that thing for, particularly in logistics and supply chains, where people are becoming more and more curious about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of leadership teams out there at the moment panicking a little bit because they're seeing or hearing things that are happening and they don't want to be left behind. So there's kind of that fear of missing out process that's going on at the moment, and it is hard. We've done it internally, haven't we? We've looked and gone, how do we utilize this? And when you find the right tools, it becomes a lot easier. And we both know, Craig, because we've just gone through the process of updating our sales system. We're currently updating our finance system, but all of that is to be able to take advantage of AI. And my vision within Claris as a business itself is I want to be able to communicate with every department of my business just through Slack or through some sort of messaging tool. I've already started to do it with our CRM, which is amazing. I think last Sunday I was flying out to Amsterdam. It was 8 o'clock, waiting for my flight. I just sat there thinking, oh, I wonder how the sales are going. So I started talking to the CRM, pulled information out of it, and I started to understand where our deal processes were up to. Previously, I'd probably be texting or ringing someone on a Sunday, and that'd be quite annoying for them, I'm sure. So that's been amazing for us internally. And now really, our focus has always been to try and provide the same tools to our customer base and also provide them in an easy way so that they don't have to be super technical to do it. And that's obviously, if you've watched the last webinar we did, we showed you the AI assistant and some of the things that could do. We've just built on top of that more training, and I'll be talking about a few of the things that we're bringing in at the moment that are kind of, it's all very new and all fast moving, but that's going to be amazing when AI can start to consume more of the data because it can start to really get a handle of what's going on within the warehouse. So yeah, the general industry, I think I'm seeing a lot more than I was 6 months ago. I'm still seeing quite basic things. I think that some of the stuff we're doing is still cutting edge. from that perspective. And some of the stuff we're doing with our customers now, we're really starting to see massive benefits from it, which is really exciting. We're getting very close to general release, and then everyone will be able to get their hands on it. But it's, we're seeing certain use cases now that the AI is just handling, and the users are just almost forgetting that things are happening anymore, which is an amazing place for it to be. It feels like a full automation in certain parts, which is super exciting.
You mentioned it in our internal systems, but externally with the customer base, what's the kind of main areas that you think that AI is going to, affect very quickly? Obviously, there's going to be some people on this webinar that didn't see the original one. So really
Yeah.
quickly, in a quick summary, what's the main impact sectors across our industry that are going to be, really feeling the AI buzz?
Yeah, yeah. It is around that kind of automating of the tasks that you do every day. So, are you processing orders you coming in every morning processing your orders in a certain way? Train the AI to do that. It can just handle that as a job, and you can just manage exceptions. A good one is reconciliations across invoicing, stuff like that. It's when the invoice is raised, that would traditionally go to an approval process. The AI is just looking at the invoice, comparing it to previous invoices or any discrepancies that it should look at, and it's just auto approving like over 99% of invoices, which again is a big task for someone to do previously. Extra charges, so there's always going to be a use case where the system can't calculate a particular charge because either it's dependent on data that it doesn't have, or the formula is just too complicated. For AI, that's just not the case anymore. You can kind of, you can connect it to other systems. You can have incredibly complex logic behind the charge, and you can then start to scoop up more of these kind of manual charges can then start to become automated charges. So again, it's just timings, and then checks and balances. I think it's another great thing. Start to send out emails, notifications, start to send Slack messages when certain things are not hitting certain times. Again, things a supervisor would be doing day to day. Let's get the AI doing that for you and just reporting to you that there might be an issue, and then you can investigate that and you can do stuff around that. And then the really advanced stuff is your warehouse orchestration bit, which is the stuff I want to talk about with the product ABC parts. We won't do a full demo on that today because it's very complicated. I would like to probably get a customer involved for that in the future. But what that's doing is essentially it's collecting statistics on the warehouse, everything that's going on in there. The AI is analyzing that, and then it's starting to do replans, transfers, changing pick phase allocations, and using its own decision logic based off what it knows. So that's super exciting. I think that's the real future, is this kind of bigger orchestration layer where, again, you can just leave it to it and it's going to go off and do these things. And then the users can come in and just double check the work more than anything, and make sure they can add their tweaks to it if they see something that's a bit different to what the AI might have seen.
Yeah, I mean, you're pointing towards it there, but that, you've got AI, becoming that orchestration layer, but equally from a user experience point of view, it's moving from a tool within an application to becoming a digital colleague. That colleague is effectively, 20 or 30 years ago or in times gone by, you'd have that one person that we all know in the office that was the oracle. If you had a problem, they either knew how to fix it or they knew the person to ask. AI
Yeah,
is replacing that kind of function. It was never really a job title. It was just, every office had one, or if you were really lucky, you had two or three.
yeah,
AI
yeah. It's
becomes that
the knowledge
person.
base. Yeah, and we do this really well internally as well with some of the tools we utilize, because the system is huge. There's not one person in our entire business that knows absolutely everything about the system. And then having that knowledge base where we can dump everyone's knowledge into, suddenly everyone knows everything about the system. It's super, super flexible, and it's really valuable for us. We've seen a massive uptick in that in these last 6 months, again, because we've done that work internally.
AI is seen as this thing that can take jobs off, but what are the kind of additional benefits to AI? Because it's not just the fact that it's taking it away from you, but things like reliability, speed, dependability, that they all come as part of the package, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. And I think the example on charges where the charges are just too complicated and it would have to go off to someone to do, even if that person's doing it, it's not necessarily right or correct. So the fact that you can kind of automate that into AI, and even if, again, a human's double checking it, the accuracy should be tighter than moving data back and forth. I mean, we saw it in the last webinar. We did a test, didn't we, where the AI imported a PDF and Jack was entering the order manually. Jack got it wrong. He missed some notes off the test. I don't think we realized during the webinar, but he actually input the order wrong. So the AI actually got the accuracy higher than the human, and it was slower. So again, it's not just taking the task away; it's potentially doing a better job in some circumstances as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the best way to start this session is to kind of do a really quick recap of what we went through in the last session.
Yeah.
Just showcasing the AI assistant and the kind of basic tasks that it can take off your desk right now.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll jump straight into the system, and we'll just start with some basic stuff that I kind of did last time round. So it was just, you know, again, for anyone that's not seen our system before, the reason the assistant's so helpful is because it can not only can it extract data out of the system, but it can perform any action the user can do within the system as well, provided they've got the right roles and permissions. Um, so what that means is it's super powerful, because if you can describe to the system what you want it to do, it can go off into the system and do it for you. So again, when you talk about doing things en masse or automating things, that's a massive step in the fact that AI can just go off and do it. Um, we might end up with a reality in the next few months where users don't even log into the system anymore. They simply use this interface in order to get information out. So I'm going to start with a query. And let's see what we can do. Let's look at some KPIs.
We've got many people in our industry that have been in the industry for years and years. They can explain it really well, but can they, write a report request? No, it's not their skill set. So having that interface to be able to allow someone to just type exactly what they want in and get the knowledge and information out of the system in a digestible way is really critical.
Well, that's it. You suddenly don't need to know the system's interface, and then you can just ask it anything you want. And if it can't do it, it can't do it, and it'll tell you. But if it can do it for you, it'll find how to do it, and it'll do it for you. So again, we talk about our sales system. I've never logged into our sales system. I don't have a clue what it even looks like. But I can speak to the bot, and I can get the data out, and I can get the questions and the answers out that I need, which is again super helpful from that perspective. So yeah, you can see here I've just asked a question about completed pick tasks, and I'm just getting only one result on that one because my data is not fantastic. But that just, it's a good example where I can just suddenly quickly ask a question: who's completed the most pick tasks? And I'm given the answer of Joshua Swift. He's only completed 2, so we're a bit weak in my world. But if we just do another example, what I showed, where I can do a kind of a back and forth transaction, I can do things like let's look at some stock that is. So what I'm going to do now is just look at stock that's expiring within the warehouse. Again, a common kind of warehouse problem if you're dealing with sell-by dates and expiry dates. And what I'm going to do is raise the stocks, find out what is expiring, and then I'll be able to do some actions on the back of it. Once I've shown this example, I'll get into some of the new stuff. So if you've watched both webinars, you'll start to now be able to see some of the new things we've worked on, which are quite exciting. So it's just showing me we've got some overdue stock here, and we've got some stuff that's expiring in the next couple of days. So I think what we'll do is we'll put all that stock, all the stock that is expired, please place on hold. So I'm just basically actioning the system and telling it to now place the stock that's expired on hold. In other examples, I've transferred stock around the warehouse and I've done things like that. Yeah. So it's just asking me if I want to place. If it's over 5 transactions, it's always going to come back to me and ask for me to double check that I want to do it for. It's asking me for a reason code now, which is correct.
Again, that just kind of goes back to the fact that this AI is following the process that's already been predetermined. So it is literally replacing that human interaction like for like. It's not circumnavigating the business logic. It's just interacting with the system exactly the same way that it would do if we were using the front end of our website.
Absolutely. That's it. Again, I don't imagine I'm a user. I don't even know how to place something on hold. It's going to talk me through that process. This is a really interesting example here. It skipped this one here because this pallet is actually on allocated to an order already. So the first thing it's asking me to do is to investigate that from a human perspective. Because again, it will never unallocate an order because that order could literally be mid pick at this point. So it knows that part has to be handed off to a user, which is really helpful. Okay, so onto some of the newer stuff. I'm going to talk about data and dashboards. So first of all, we have a new dashboard in Claris that I'm going to going to showcase for you. Again, it's in beta. I'm using a beta dashboard with a beta AI assistant here. So it might not work perfectly, but you'll see where it's going. I think a bit more training, I think this will be super powerful. So if I go back to my first example that I did, let's look at some KPIs, user and subtype, all completed picking tasks. Let's just make sure we do that.
While you're typing that out, I think now's a really good time just to ask if everyone's watching on the webinars, whether that be on LinkedIn Live or directly in the webinar platform. If you've got any questions whatsoever, please feel free to throw them across. We've got a team in the background that are going to be making sure we get the questions and we can push them over to Tim. We'll take periodic points throughout the session, make sure that we're answering the questions as and when.
Yes, that'd be perfect. Some questions at the end is always fun. I just realized I've done it slightly wrong. So I'm going to copy this and what I need to do is start a new chat and I'm going to use my dashboard expert because this one has been trained to a better standard. So I'm just going to copy this same thing. It's going to give me the same, well, similar results, and we'll take it from there. So again, all I'm doing is the same query I did before, where it's going to show me the kind of the tasks that we can then utilize. Okay. Now, once I've got that, I can now ask the system to put this into a dashboard widget for me. So I'm going to do that for me. Yes, let's create a new dashboard and add this widget to call the dashboard KPIs. And again, the vision here is with dashboards, we've all had that where we've been promised an amazing dashboard that does everything we want to. You set something about the box, and then there's always that, oh, can we just add this? Can we just do this? Can we just do that? And before you know it, you're really in depth with the system, and you don't quite know how it all works. And what that then does is it means that the dashboard becomes almost useless because you can never get exactly what you're looking for on it. So what the vision here is that you can talk to AI, you can get the results you want, and then you can just put that on a dashboard so that you're not having to keep running the same queries with AI. It should just be on a dashboard. So it's got the flexibility of basically using the AI to build it, but then you're able to actually customize it using and then view it. Here. Oh, there we go. So put it onto there. And it's a bit rubbish there because there's too much data. So what I can do is adjust it. Let's adjust the widget so that it shows only the.
While you're doing that, it's again, it's a really clear thing to see that this is taking what used to be an expert function away. So,
Yeah.
previously, especially in our industry, you'd either have, if you were lucky to be a large company, you'd probably have a BI function or a data function. But realistically, in most kind of, operations, you're probably outsourcing this at significant cost, to either one, set it up, or two, have some kind of recurring data flow. Either way, it takes expertise that most people don't have in their business day to day. So now we're lucky enough to have that, this effective expert sitting there waiting for you to kind of walk on a journey like Tim's doing now, having a quick chat with someone. Again, almost like they are a digital colleague, getting to a point where you can build that dashboard and start surfacing the data. You can imagine the iterations you'd go through, especially for something as important as business KPIs, where rather than going back and forward over emails for weeks on end, Tim's doing that in 45 seconds?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And you're just able to build out the dashboards in Claris. Now, just a couple of things to talk through here is you can now build as many dashboards as you want. So you can create things like a KPIs dashboard, just ask AI to drop it on there for you, or you can go in and actually edit the widgets, create them yourself using the data grids that we've already got that you use every day. So if I go into one of the widgets here, you can actually start to see how you build it up. And you can, if you're very technical, you can actually just write it as a GraphQL query. And if not, you can kind of use our report builder here to kind of be able to decide which data you want to use and which filters to add on to it, and then which kind of a chart you want as well. So if you want to change it into something different, like a pie chart, it's very easily done. Again, AI can do all this for you. So again, you don't need to be an expert on these screens. You just talk to AI and it makes the dashboards for you. where I really want to get to with this is someone writes an email saying, I want to see a dashboard that shows this, 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 this. You almost copy paste that into your AI chat. There you go, Arthur. There's your dashboard. That's how it will work. And you can see it's very close. It's working now. I just want to get the training a little bit tighter so that it works a little bit better. I'll do another example, maybe of a bigger dashboard. Let's go with one I prepared earlier. So this is a bit more of a complex one. It might go wrong. It might go right. We'll see.
That's the beauty of a live demo.
Yeah. What I'm asking for is basically a pallets dashboard. It's going to show me number of storage units received, number of storage units dispatched by day. So I'm going to see some sort of trend graph, and then a number of storage units that are currently in stock by storage unit type. So what kinds of pallets have I got in stock? So let's see if it builds it and how it does, and then maybe we can tweak some things as we go as well. Let's see what we come up with here. But again, this will hopefully be a good example where you can kind of grab together a big dashboard kind of spec and just chuck it in the AI, and hopefully it'll output some good results. Or at least, it should get you very close, to be fair. And the best thing is it can actually debug itself as well. So if you do get an error, you can kind of go back to the AI and say, I'm getting this error, and it'll run it all for you and try and work out what the error is, and it'll fix it. So it's very clever in that instance. And the good thing from a token perspective is that it's, you're going to use the tokens to build it, but then your dashboard's just running essentially for free after that. So if you're very smart with your setup and how you do things with your... Oh, there we go. It worked first time. I'm not sure if the data's right on this one, but it could just be because my range is rubbish. Let's have a look. Nope, still not right. There's a filter. Okay, I won't debug this now, but essentially you'll see it got pretty close. It's got this one working correctly. This one and this one are close, but it doesn't like the data's coming through right. Might be because that's dispatch, and that should be. In fact, let's see if we can work some magic
While
here.
you're debugging that, Tim, I think one of the things to talk about here is that fact that realistically the tool is designed to build dashboards, but it doesn't mean that you have to eat the elephant. You can use the AI assistant itself to kind of go report by report and build out the reports and then just collect them together. One of the kind of real life examples we've seen from customers is when you've already got a dashboard in another software, be that an external BI tool or you've got something running in Excel. Being able to duplicate what you've currently got is relatively easy now because we can go straight into the assistant. We can explain it in detail. We can even upload images and showcase exactly what we're trying to replicate. And the assistant's clever enough now to be able to try and duplicate exactly what it sees rather than us just reliant on text-based input.
You can see the point here. We're getting very close to just being able to go, yeah, I'll have that, thank you, and put it on the dashboard for me, which is amazing because it's going to open up a lot of data, and then you're going to be able to utilize the data so that it's as usable as possible and it's at your fingertips without being an expert. Again, the point you said there before, Craig, that is the key part here. You don't have to know about all our data. The AI does. You just have to speak in plain English, and it will then go off and create what it can for you from that side of things. Just to talk data, and again, we mentioned some of the data that we've now started to collect on. We've got this stock statistics screen, which essentially now is collecting, I think it's over 100 lines every single day based on a bunch of stuff that is happening with your products and your stock within your warehouse. So all sorts of things like, number of part pallets you picked, number of pick face picks you picked, number of replan tasks completed, number of sales orders for this product, number of units orders, everything you can think of, snapshots of your stock per day. And then it's also using some ABC rankings to rank your products. So you know which ones are the fast movings from full pallets, which ones are fast movings from break pallets. Again, my data isn't fantastic on my test system. Pretty much everything comes out middle of the road because I just don't have the transactions like a real warehouse. What we will do is we'll partner with a warehouse and we'll probably do a webinar based off that with them. But what AI can do is it reads all this data and it can then start to make suggestions based off this data as to what you should do So usually that's, this product has moved from a B rank to an A rank. We should now be assigning more pick faces, or we should move its pick face to a on-demand pick face, and we should give it more space. Um, and it can work all that out for you. And it can it can either send you an email with recommendations, or it can just go off and it can execute them, which is the point we're up to with some warehouses, which is, again, amazing to see. They're coming in the morning and there's just a few transfers to do. They go and do the transfers, and the warehouses are more efficient based off what the AI has thought. And the AI will always explain itself. So it will always send the email with its reasoning. Or you can even go into the session and you can look through all the data it was looking at and why it made that same conclusion. So it's super, super powerful again. And I can see this being a massive step forward for a massive part of or stock automation, which has always been good. But this gives you an extra level of flexibility, because every single warehouse is different. They all have differences when it comes to trying to forecast what your fast movers are going to be, which products need more replens. That data hasn't always been available, or if it has, it's just not been available in automation. So being able to have it in AI now is an amazing step forward from that point of things.
The thing you said there about, Tim, the customization, that kind of flags one of the questions we've got. Just had a question from someone asking about going back to the dashboards.
Yep.
They've got multiple customers. Can they generate a dashboard per customer, and to make sure that customers don't see each other's dashboards?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So first of all, there's the role on the dashboard. If you don't want a client to see the dashboard at all, you make sure that that role is only for internal users. The other thing, obviously, is that the system's already segregated by a client as well. So if you created a client-specific dashboard, other clients would see it, but they would only see it populated with their data. They would never see, cross-pollination of data across both users. So yes, to both.
Okay, another question.
Yep.
This one is specifically on the AI assistant. They're saying that their warehouse works quite differently to the standard, and they wanted to know if does the AI assistant know how their warehouse works, and can it answer their questions versus just generic Claris?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the agent section here, you actually can create your own agent. You get to give it a name. You get to give it you get to select a model, so you can select which model it's running, and then you also get to give it a load of context. So you can actually edit its system prompt here, and you can allow it to either specialize in a particular job or task, or you can just give it context that makes sense around your warehouse or your account specifically. And what that does is it just means that whenever you ask it a question, you don't have to give it as much context. So you'll see a lot of my prompts when I do these demos. I try and keep the prompts really, really, really trimmed, because it is open to more errors, but that's how most users use it. So I always try and give it a really small prompt. The context in the background should do the heavy lifting and do the thinking and work it all out for me. With this part now, you're able to utilize this to give your own context in there, so that the AI understands your terminology, the way you work. It shouldn't have to second guess on things that are maybe specific to you.
Yeah. And again, it falls back to this thing we talked about earlier. We're working with a customer at the minute where we're spending a bit of time with one of their kind of main operational people on the floor. Because if we
Yeah.
can get all of the information, well, as much information as we can out of their head and into that kind of context window, every
Yeah.
time that person talks to this agent, which is effectively an expert in their business, is getting an answer that's grounded in something that that person would have answered anyway.
Yes. Yes, exactly that.
Okay, so we mentioned a few things around dashboarding and the AI assistant, but there's a couple of other things we're working on in the background as well. One of them being the ways in which that we can use MCP servers. One of the things that we briefly touched on in the last webinar, but I guess just to make sure that we cover everybody that might not have seen that session. Tim, do you want to give a really quick overview of what an MCP is?
Yeah, it's Model Context Protocol, which is lovely, and really what it is it's a server that we provide that you can connect to any of your LLMs. So you can use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. You can plug the Claris MCP in there, and it becomes a tool call that's available to your LLMs. So if you look at what might happen in, let's say, next year, when all your systems have MCP servers, you plug them all into your Claude or your ChatGPT session. And then when you're having a standard conversation with that ChatGPT, it can get extra context. It can run queries. It can create orders. It could, speak to your finance system, find out information there. It could get you KPIs across your entire business and pull it into that one chat model. So where the AI assistant that we've built only has the context of the WMS, MCP could have context of all of your systems if they provide an MCP. And really, I think the rule we've got within Claris now is we're not even going to look at the software to buy software anymore if it doesn't give us an MCP server, because it doesn't give us the tools that we need for what we know we need for 6 months' time. So yeah, we're providing that now. You can connect that straight in to your to your LLMs, and you can have the same conversations I'm having with the AI system, but you can do it through your own interface essentially. So I expect people are going to build on top of this. They're going to build some really, really good solutions, and solve even greater automation problems that maybe span multiple systems by using that.
Yeah, I've had a couple of really good chats with current customers about how they could potentially use that in the future. One of
Mhm.
the ones that was quite insightful, and I guess it's really just scratching the surface of what MCP is possible, is things like their site is quite restricted on space, but they've got quite a lot of storage locations that have effectively dead stock that it's been sitting there for years.
Yep.
The customer's currently getting charged for that dead stock, and the orders don't look like they're coming. Some of the stock has been sitting there for 5 years plus.
Yep.
So they're looking at the MCP to be able to, one, hit Claris and have a look at all of those locations and the stock within those locations that haven't moved in a long, long time. And then
Yep.
two, automatically drafting emails to the right customers based on the information they're holding,
Yep.
but then also using the MCP for their finance provider to kind of say, if you move that stock, either take it back or we write it off. You're probably saving yourself quite a significant sum based on the storage funds that you're currently spending per annum. And then also benefit of them internally is that they then unlock additional space they can sell to other customers.
Yep. 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 It's all that sort of stuff. It's as I said, it's the kind of checks and balances things that maybe we're all a bit too busy to be doing. AI can just be doing that for you, and you just once you've set it up in the automation, it's fire and forget. You don't
Yeah.
have to keep pushing things. It's just doing it for you on a daily basis or a weekly basis.
Okay. Well, one of the things that you mentioned there, Tim, is about how the MCP can integrate to other systems. But how can Claris integrate to other systems? I know that one of the things you've been working on is that you mentioned at the start is looking at how we could potentially use Claris in just a different interface entirely, like for Slack, for example.
Yeah, so I can't demo it today, but I probably will do a little bit of a video on it shortly. But yes, it's integrated to Slack already. I believe WhatsApp will probably be live tomorrow, so you'll actually be able to sit on the floor in a warehouse and ask a question to the AI assistant and get an answer, which is pretty good. So if you haven't got a scanner with you and you can't scan a barcode, you could probably do similar things, ask questions about stock that's in an order, or even start to prioritize things based off what you're seeing in the warehouse, or upload photos. That's going to be really cool. And then there's a Teams integration as well, which I'm hoping to have ready for kind of mid-June once I've got through some authorization processes with Microsoft. But that should be mid-June. There should be a Teams one as well. So you'll be able to literally invite the AI assistant into your group chats and just start talking to it and get extra additional information from it as part of your daily talks. And one of the things I'm finding really useful in Slack is that the AI can actually use it as a notification tool as well. So previously, where I've had something happen, the AI has done something for me, or it's found something that it wants my attention with, it sends me an email. It's way better if it sends me a Slack. I prefer that because I can actually see the notification and I can see that it doesn't get lost in my inbox. So that's been really, really nice as well. Just being able to have AI send me a message and say, "Oh, I've done this for you," or "Do you think we should do this?" And I can reply going, "Yes, please," and it just goes off and actions what it's found. One of the things we found with some of the warehouses that are going live with the AI assistant is the confidence of fully automating. That has to be earned. And one of the nice steps in the middle is saying, look for this pattern, make a decision, but don't do the action. Come back to me, ask me what to do, and then we'll do the action together. We'll agree the action essentially. And that's been really nice. That's where Slack and email notifications have worked really well, because the agent can loop the human in when required. Human gives a thumbs up or explains something else to do, and then the AI can go and action whatever the human and the AI have decided. So it just gets that another level of confidence that the AI isn't just running your warehouse, but actually causing damage to it. So that's been a nice thing to see. And what we've also found is, after a couple of weeks of doing that, the notifications tend to get switched off and the automations just run in the background. And then the notifications are only used for exceptions, that's where we all want to be.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things that have happened here. So obviously, piqued the interest of the viewers because we've got a couple of questions that have come in,
Yeah.
particularly around the integration. I think when you mentioned Slack and Teams, people have started to perk up, and we've got
Yep.
one question in two parts. It looks like. So the question is, um, can different alerts go to different teams or channels, and could it work for my other teams like customer service, transport, finance?
Yeah, absolutely. When you create well, I'll just explain how it works. So Slack, the AI assistant knows it has a connection to Slack. If you've installed it, you have it in Slack. It knows it has access to that. When you tell it, or an automation tells it to send a message in Slack, it needs to know who you're messaging. So it'll have when you set it up, it'll have a default channel which it'll be sat in. So maybe your general channel or whatever you've got. But it can also send a message to a group chat or an individual as well. So depending on what the automation is, imagine you go through the automation, it makes a decision. At the end, you say, right, notify this channel here, customer services channel, with this information, and it will do that for you. As long as it's a valid channel, it will find it and it'll send the message into that channel. If it's got a lot of interest, I'll do a video on it. I'll set some stuff up. The only reason I didn't want to do it today is just because Slack's a bit of a nightmare for keeping sensitive information off of webinars. I'll see if I can set something up that's a lot more limited, and I can just show you kind of how that works. But essentially, it can do the same as any user on Slack. So it can message anyone you want it to, or any channel you want it to, provided it's got the privileges to do that.
Yep. Okay. Another question has just come through about the MCP connection. I think doesn't actually specify, but um, could customer updates be drafted automatically for someone to then approve? You kind of half touched on that in a different example.
Yep. Yeah. So again, was that in context with MCP, or was that in context with the
It
assistant?
doesn't specifically say MCP, but yeah, it's just asking in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as you're writing your prompts, well, I won't give you a fast example because it won't be super fast. But when you're writing your prompts, all you're going to do is, instead of saying, place all the stock on hold, you're going to say, find all the stock that's expired, and then display it to me, and we can make a decision based off what to do with it. If you didn't put that, if you said, find all the stock on hold, and then, find all the stock that's expired and then place it on hold, it will just do the action without your input. If your prompt includes the fact that it needs to circle back to the human, it always will do. From that side of things. So that's how you do it. You design the workflow. So you step it almost, and you just put, make sure you send a message now to Tim Payne on Slack and ask him what we should do about this stock. And then it'll loop me into the conversation. I will create a video on that. That'll be really cool, I think.
Yeah, ideal. Okay, well, we've got just want a quick shout out. If anyone's got any other questions, please feel free to keep them coming. We'll try and get through as many as possible. Obviously, we've got a bit of a hard stop, but it'd be good to kind of answer as much as we can. And we've got another question that's just come through, Tim. This
Yep.
one is kind of more about the general AI assistant. And it's could different customers have different ways of using the AI assistant?
As in their customers?
I think it's their customers, yeah. So I guess the different ways we can interface. I know the last time we talked on the webinar, we were talking about our future of having an email interface.
Yep. Yeah. Again, it comes down to the agents. When you create an agent, you can tie it down to an account, to a warehouse, to a customer, give it a context, and then the integrations is the next part. So we've not got the email part working yet, but that will be a case of, you could have an email address that just routes through to a particular agent that works only with a particular account and deals with those queries. So absolutely. If you think about the way Claris works, it's all segregated by customer, warehouse. You want to do the same with the agents so that it works exactly the same way, and it uses the same roles and permissions as well. That's exactly how it will work.
Yeah, and again, you've got the context layer as well. So for every single interaction, every single different agent, you'd have an additional layer of context. So
Yep.
if I'm running a 3PL and I've got 100 customers, I could have 100 agents, each with context of how that customer likes to receive data, likes to be spoken to, even down to
Yep.
language. We've got customers that have primary suppliers in India and China. Being able to interface in their language is always a benefit.
Well, one of the ones that we've been working on with someone is you actually put the KPIs of that customer into the context, and then the agent even knows about the KPIs. So again, it's another thing for it to be able to utilize and use to make decisions based on things that are happening within the warehouse, which again is super important because if it knows context about the KPIs, it can start to try and action them. Which is, that's what you want. That's how your staff work. They understand what needs to be achieved and by when. The agent can also have the same content.
Yeah. Okay. We're into the final section of the webinar now. So again, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to put them in. We're going to move to
Any more
a
questions?
rapid fire question section, Tim.
Oh, okay.
So if you're ready, we're going to try and keep every answer to a couple of sentences, if possible.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So question number one: do you think warehouse teams will use the WMS differently in the future?
Yes, absolutely. As I said, I think a lot more people will utilize the chat interface, and I think they'll utilize that to orchestrate automations. So set things up and then never have to do them again. Trying to
Okay.
keep it short.
Will admin teams spend, question number two, will admin teams spend less time entering data and more time managing exceptions?
Absolutely. I think that's almost number one goal of the AI is really to try and remove manual keying of data and entry, and then just freeing up people so that it can just look after exceptions.
Okay. Um, do you think customers are starting to expect this kind of level of AI access as a standard?
Strangely, I don't. I think it's odd. Whenever I demo this, I still feel like everyone's a bit blown away. Whereas we're very used to this now, and I think again it is the lag behind in the WMS world where as soon as people realize that AI can actually do the actions a user can do, suddenly you realize the opportunities are endless with it, and I think that's still surprising to a lot of people. That will start to reduce, but I think it's still surprising right now.
Yeah, agreed. I think one of the things that you kind of talked about a little bit earlier was it depends on what we define as standard. So, things like having an API layer, having an MCP server, they are starting to become more mainstream as, people expect them. But having the interface to the kind of data that Claris or, like large scale WMS providers have and being able to interface in the way that we're looking at it, I think, yeah, I agree that that's completely not standard. Um, and it'd be interesting to see how kind of perception changes over time on that one.
I'm seeing a lot of chatbots now, but they're just pulling data out. They're not actually doing the action. And as soon as people start to get smart to that and say, well, yeah, data's great, get the data out, fine. But actually, I want to action things because that's the real value. And I think that's where they'll look at something that we've built and go, oh yeah, that's very different. I've not really seen that anywhere else in WMS yet.
Yeah, agreed. I think the main example that you showcased earlier on that kind of highlights it. That being able to see data is a great tool, and I think that's where a lot of kind of other providers, other softwares, quite quickly get into. But seeing data doesn't kind of give me the ability to act on the data, and that's where the time saving element actually comes in. Seeing data just gives me additional tasks. It doesn't save me any time in my day to day job. But being able to do, for example, putting stock on hold or moving stock, transferring stock, or in your example, seeing the data and asking it to do an action, and then actually one thing's already flagged, which prompts another action. That second action,
Yeah.
albeit it can't be done by me, it's going to save me time because I can walk straight to the warehouse floor, get the pick as it's being done, rather than having to unwind everything as it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's even in Claris, you could spot things that need to be done, and there can be a load of it to do. And you can go, okay, well, I can do that, but I'm going to be sat here for 30 minutes clicking away. Or you can just tell the agent to do it, and you just go make a coffee, come back and sit down, and it's done. So there's just a whole different way of working. It's a very deeper interface with the ability just to chat to something that has tool calls. Incredibly
Yeah.
powerful.
We've had quite an existential question come through from someone. Um, they've asked, where do we think that AI will be in 2028? But I think I'll reframe that, because 2028 is almost light years away. So I think we say, where do we think it'll be next year?
Yeah, okay. I'm bullish and bearish at the same time on AI, in the fact that I think the things that we're showcasing today will be incredibly normal then. So I think, you know, if you've not got a system that does this in a year's time, I think you're in real trouble, because I think your margins are going to be horrendous compared to people that have got these things. Think of the automation you can do in your back office. Think about if you're doing that. Sorry, if your competitors are doing that and you're not, I think that's incredibly, you're going to be lagging miles behind. I think this is going to be really normal. I don't think it moves on massively from this now. And I think that the bear case here is because of the kind of compute and power constraints that the world generally is going to hit from that side of things. So although I think AI is incredibly powerful today, in a year's time, I don't think it's going to be double, triple, quadruple as powerful. Maybe in some private instances. So there might be, versions of Claude that are not released, that are way better than what we've got our hands on. But the stuff that we can use now is good enough to do most things you need within kind of warehouse automations. So yeah, I think we would have definitely made progress in a year. I don't think it'll be like the apocalypse. I think this will just be very normal, and we'll all be much better off from a business perspective for it. And I think, manual tasks and manual things that we were doing, that'd be a thing of the past. And I think that will have a big change kind of across the economy as well. We'll all be a lot more productive.
That's going to bring us to the end of the session for today's clarity and conversation. But I guess the main takeaway here is really simple. It's growth shouldn't punish your team. So you need to get into a position where an admin function isn't the kind of weight behind being able to grow efficiently, being able to handle customer responses. If queries come in, we shouldn't feel a burden within our business. And I guess winning new business, and like the example that we said at the start of the session, having to handle PDFs as a form of data input shouldn't completely lag the entire operation of a business. And with the way that we're handling things now, I think we're starting that journey towards allowing people to kind of effectively put the operational changes in place to become almost completely independently available to do anything. Tim's obviously gone through a lot of different things, talking about the way that the AI assistant's working, briefly covered things that we're working on in terms of MCP. You saw a little bit of a teaser on ABC categorization that we will announce in a bit more detail next time. But you can also get a sense of the kind of length and breadth of the way that AI is going to affect every business. It's not just the core admin functions of receiving an order and putting it into the system, but it's the day-to-day operations. It's that warehouse manager coming in the morning, sitting down at sometimes 6, 7, 8 a.m. and spending 15 minutes completely organizing his day, having a chat to a digital colleague, getting information as if they were just sitting in an office full of, effectively hundreds of different admin staff, but getting the same level of output and being able to provide the input needed to get a lot of kind of value in a very, very short space of time. You saw that through Tim's example and dashboards. We can ask for data, and there's many platforms that are able to surface data, but it's what do you do with that data? What's the next step? And that's the truly kind of operational benefit that we want to try and showcase. In coming sessions, we'll deep dive into other things that we're kind of delivering. But on that note, if you've got any questions about the session, if you're seeing this in the future, feel free to drop comments on LinkedIn. The team are always on the system, and we'll be able to answer questions retrospectively as well. But apart from that, Tim, thanks very much for joining. And we'll leave you with one final line, which is an AI assistant should feel less like a chatbot and more like a digital colleague. Remember that one. Thanks a lot for your
Yeah.
time.
All right. Thank you very much.